So today for our Equity Team podcast, we have Jonathan 𝐟𝐵𝐾𝐭. Jonathan, thanks for joining.
Hi, Chad. Thanks for having me.
You bet. So Jonathan, I want to make sure I get this right. I've worked with Jonathan for many years, and we have successfully closed many transactions with Jonathan as my go-to local lender, but he is the co-branch manager of Fairway Independent Mortgage Corporation in Sedona, Arizona.
You got it.
Yeah. And how long have you been a co-branch manager over there, Jonathan?
I've been with Fairway since 2017, so we're going on almost 6 years come July. So yeah. It'll be 6 years in July.
Perfect. Before we dive into some questions that I've been excited to ask you, I just want to clarify, I've worked with a lot of lenders and a lot of mortgage brokers over the years. And one of the reasons why I keep coming back to working with you is that it is kind of a no drama, successful experience. And, it's surprising how often when you use either an out-of-state lender or you use an out-of-area lender, even if it's in the state, or you use an in-area, use a local lender that just doesn't have their ducks in a row. It's amazing how often it creates problems for buyers, for title company, even for sellers. And I don't know that I've ever experienced those problems, when I've worked with you. So it's always a refreshing thing when we're going to work together on deals.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
We do pride ourselves on really having it together. Fairway is a general large company, but we really take pride in the local aspect of it. The way our slogan works is national strength with hometown service. So it's a really big deal for us. We have full service processing in-house, as well as a delegated underwriter. And I think you've met our underwriter, at least on Zoom, and you can see that they're regular people, but ones that are very, very good at their job. We're adept at our job. We have a team mentality similar to how you run your business. Mm-hmm. So that seems to be why we gel together well. We're not looking to say, oh, I'm the best at what we do. We're looking to make our clients the best experience possible. And really, we want that to reflect in every part of the transaction.
Absolutely. So obviously financing, a big part of the reason why I wanted to have you on our podcast is a big influencing factor for the real estate market are going to be interest rates, LTV, loan to value options for financing. So I really want to bend your ear here and give some real value to our viewers as far as what's going on with market, what's going on with financing, what's around the corner, what are some things that we can do to improve upon financing options, all of that good stuff. So let's start off by jumping in. What are you seeing let's start with primary residence financing, and we'll kind of go from there. What are you seeing for LTV and interest rates for primary?
Sure. Just as a side note, we talk about conforming and jumbo markets. So we have a bit different loan to value depending on what the purchase price is. We did get a loan to value increase, or rather a conforming loan limit increase at the last part of the year. And so that's really helpful. We go to $700 plus $1,000 for people now. So if you were in that range, you're typically looking at 3% down if you haven't owned a home in the last 3 years. Otherwise, it's 5% down on your primary residence, 10% down on your second home, and investment 20% down.
Okay, good deal. And, same question for second home, and then from there, it's kind of similar, but not necessarily the same as far as rental income specific properties where DTI might be an issue. So where are we seeing with those?
Sure. On the second home, so if you're going to have a vacation home, you're going to live there part of the year, 10% down is typically the least amount you can put when you buy property in that range. We generally see people put down a little bit more if it's their second home. They generally have a bit higher net worth and they want to be a bit more flexible with their down payment, but not everybody's in that boat. Likewise, if you're going to buy a rental property specifically, 20% down is the minimum that you can do, 20% down. sometimes 25% down will get you a better interest rate. So we try to balance that for people to make sure that we're giving the best interest rates that are out there, based on what your finances look like.
Okay. Now, obviously the market, the real estate market and financing, you know, with adjustments to the Fed and all of that, we've been seeing a lot of interest rate changes, and it's caused a lot of frustration for a lot of people that have done things a certain way or expected things to be a certain way, and it's changed a lot. So what have you seen from the inside of the financing world? What have you seen over the last 6 months, you know, carrying up to now?
Sure. So, I mean, the name of the game over the last 6 months has been interest rates, specifically the Fed's view toward interest rates and the raising that's been going on in the interest rate world. I mean, we were in the 3% or less range, and then in the matter of a few months, 2 to 3 months, we were up near 6.5 to 7% interest, and so that really was a shock to people's system. Was it the Federal Reserve that impacted interest rates on our fixed rate mortgages? To an extent, yes. But the Federal Reserve doesn't actually control our long-term interest rates. They do control the overnight rate, which dictates your home equity lines of credit, credit cards, and your car loans, but not necessarily your fixed rate mortgages or adjustable rate mortgages that we can talk about, that we've been talking about. So when we're looking at these long-term rates, the 30-year mortgages, the ARM rates, we're really looking at inflation gauges to decide how that's going to impact our rates in the near term and the long term. We're seeing inflation start to level out and to actually start to subside for most of our indicators. And that's going to help us to probably see interest rates come down over the next few months. We're predicting in 2023 that rates will start to come down. We should see rates get better through the first quarter and for the rest of the year, really. Does that mean we're going to see other markets that are impacted? Potentially, maybe the stock market, maybe other things like that. But in the interest rate market, we're really looking at things like inflation and how that's impacting the interest rates, and specifically servicing's appetite to buy loans right now. So we do predict that rates are going to come down through the first quarter, probably toward the start of the buying season here in the Verde Valley. We might see buyers just get a nice gift of a little bit better interest rates.
Well, good. That's certainly going to help the clients that have already purchased, you know, as far as getting property values to come back up. And you know, that's big relief to hear that. I've been seeing the same thing from other lenders are sharing a similar sentiment across the country. Sure. You know, lenders that I work with a lot in California for purchases elsewhere and stuff like that. They're also seeing the same things in California, seeing it all the way through to Florida, that it's similar predictions. So that's really good to hear that. Now, what are some tips and tricks that you might recommend to potential buyers, potential borrowers, as far as how to get a drop in their interest rate, an increase in possibly, if possible, an increase in LTV, but most importantly is interest rate?
Yeah, you know, the best thing somebody can do is to get prepared early. So to call you first and to get a referral. You know, I'm happy to help. We want you with the best team possible. So our goal is to talk through your financial situation, look at any potential hiccups we might have. You know, is your credit the best it can be right now? That's something we look at. That always impacts your interest rate. Is your down payment what it could be? Is there a way you want to borrow from somewhere else? Is there ways to increase your down payment to get a bit better interest rate? Or are you comfortable potentially with an adjustable rate mortgage? So an ARM product, maybe a fixed product for 5 or 10 years. Those are adjustable rate mortgages. By getting prepared early, you take a lot of stress out of the buying process, so that when you really look for homes, you can focus on what's important, which is obviously the house or the piece of property that you're looking at. That way you can be focused. You can look for things like, you know, is it structurally sound? Are there going to be any hurdles later? And of course, you'll guide them through that. But we want to get people to get prepared early. We can even get you underwritten and pre-approved. So all you really are waiting on is just the piece of property that you find, and then an appraisal to make sure it's worth what you're buying it for, and then it could be just as simple as closing at that point. So preparing early is very beneficial.
Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts, always be prepared.
That's right.
Yeah, one of the things that you mentioned, Jonathan, was buying down interest rates, and now we're seeing quite a bit of that. We were seeing less of that 6 months ago and 8 months ago, but now it's so highly relevant because people have been pampered for many, many years with low interest rates. You think about our parents or their parents and what their interest rates were, and there's no comparison. We have it good even now, compared to then. But buying down the interest rates is something that now has become a lot more comfortable and a lot more common for those that have the cash to get that done. Or if you get what's called, this is more on the real estate agent side of things, but if you get seller concessions to buy down those points, then obviously that helps a tremendous deal. And, I have brokered quite a few transactions that have accomplished that for buyers that needed that help.
It's nice to hear that people are willing to negotiate these days.
Yes. Yeah. There's actually quite a bit of that going on, which is great. It's really great for both sides of the fence.
Yeah.
Now, typically what I'm seeing, Jonathan, for buying down interest rates, it's about 1% of purchase price is about 0.25% buy down. Is that roughly speaking what you're seeing?
Depends on the loan program, depends on all sorts of things. So, you can take it as a general rule. The best thing to do is to talk to a lender about that, to specifically see what that offer is going to look like and how you can either buy down or not. I mean, there's two schools of thought in the buy down. There's a long-term buy down, which would mean maybe your rate is 6% and you buy it down to 5.75 for the entire term. There are other options that are 2-1 buy downs or 3-1 buy downs, which you buy down the rate for a certain number of years through a seller concession. It can be a little bit complex to talk about, but a simple illustration will put somebody's mind at ease. I typically don't like long-term buy downs because we think rates are going to drop. But if you did a short-term buy down for a year or two, that's probably your best because you're going to potentially save the most money, and then maybe you'll refinance in 6 to 12 months, and then you get even better rates. So the buy down for long-term sometimes isn't worth it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I hear you. Our team works with a lot of investors, and so the investors are typically coming in second home or specific to rental income property purchases, things like that. And again, it just like you're saying, it depends on the purchase price and what the volume of that loan is going to be. But yeah, typically we are very approximately, we're seeing about 1% purchase price is roughly 1/4 point, something like that. And sometimes, typically with Fairway, it's about a maximum of about 3% seller concessions.
Well, it depends on the program.
Yeah.
If you're doing a primary residence purchase, you can go up to 6%, depending on how much down payment you're doing. Yeah. On a second home, it's different, and likewise on an investment.
Yeah.
Different again.
That's
could be only 2% on an investment. Depends on the program. So, again, prepare early in that regard. One thing we've talked about for the last few months, and we joke about, is people are generally coming in and paying $50,000 to $100,000 over list price for a home. So that's a nice thing. So get your best deal on the house, take the interest rate that's offered now while you can, and then potentially refinance it later, because you can't change what you owe on the property unless you pay it down.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Now, any concerns or excitement or anything like that you have for the market, both the financing market, highly relevant to the financing market, the real estate market? What's on your mind these days?
Yeah, I'm concerned with the inventory. We have a more balanced inventory, but if you look at the inventory in our Verde Valley area, what is it, a 3-month supply? And we aren't seeing homes move just quite as fast as we were, but that's typical, you know, in a higher rate environment. So my worry is that, let's say rates drop, is there going to be a lot of competition for these homes that are on the market, and are ones that are waiting on the sidelines going to be able to buy a house? You know, we saw so much competition, and it was fierce by people that they knew what they wanted, and they bought what they wanted. So if we see interest rates drop, are we going to see more homes come on the market? My fear is maybe not. So that could be competition for homes that are already out there. So I think actually right now is one of the best times to buy. Yeah, rates are higher, but it gives you flexibility to negotiate an offer and potentially get the house that you're looking for without the stiff competition of other buyers in the market.
I think that's a great perspective, because obviously we were all in this buffed up, crazy seller's market. We quickly transitioned into a buyer's market, and now we're in more of a balanced market, which is really encouraging. And that's usually the trend, is usually the steps that you see before transitioning back into a seller's market, which with interest rates going back down, that could very well happen. It's hard to say, there are a lot of factors, but I agree, it is an excellent time to purchase right now. There's some great deals, and there is some great negotiating that's happening, both on financing, on purchase terms, all sorts of things. So it's really good. Any last general advice? You've already given so much, but any last general advice that you have for our viewers?
Yeah, I would say to ones that are looking for property, don't be so worried about timing the market. Is it going to be perfect? You know, have a life plan in place. You know, is this going to work for me for 3 years or 5 years? I mean, somebody that comes to me and says, I'm going to live in this house for 1 more year, should I refinance? My answer is always no matter what their interest rate is, because we want to see people get the most they can for their house and put themselves in the best position possible. So, you know, have that 3-year time frame in mind. And right now is a great time to buy. Right now is a great time to ask for maybe some extra concessions, and we can help you in a number of ways, either through the interest rate buy downs or even just getting a little bit better deal on that house through you, Chad.
That's great. That's really great. The last thing I just want to point out here is right here, you can see the website for Fairway Mortgage and for Jonathan's link. And right off, of course, they're cutting edge, and they're tech savvy. So right off here, you can go ahead and apply for your loan, submit docs right through here. And then Jonathan's team can get started on looking at everything and then advise. And typically your advice, Jonathan, and as always, correct me if I'm wrong, but typically what you advise new clients, new customers to do is give you the info so that you can really dig into it and see what the best options are. Is that accurate?
You got it. Prepare early. Let's get you in the best situation you can be before you buy.
That's right. Yeah, and you'll be in excellent hands with Jonathan. Again, I've worked with tons of lenders, and you know, Jonathan and his team, they're very good at what they do and highly competitive. So it's a great way to go. Jonathan, thank you so much for joining. This has been awesome, and I'd love to have you on again at some point.
Well, thanks, Chad. We appreciate you and your team, and look forward to 2023.
Absolutely. It's going to be a good one. Have a good one, and take care.